Welcome to Beyond Sight, the podcast dedicated to exploring the diverse experiences and perspectives within the blind community. I'm your host, Qualik Ford, and on this journey, we will be uncovering the experiences, misconceptions, and triumphs of the blind community. This podcast is created by Blind Industries and Services of Maryland. BISM. BISM is a 501c3 not for profit organization dedicated to providing career and training resources for blind residents of Maryland and beyond. BISM is committed to empowering blind individuals like myself. I have a really fun history going through different levels here at BISM. I started off as a young adult, had recently lost the rest of my vision. I had a little bit of vision as a kid, and then I had gone totally blind. And so I was looking for a shot of confidence and a way to control my destiny, find my independence. And I was able to find that at BISM through tons of mentorship and experiences through the various programs that we run. They were able to help build me up into the person I am today. And within that, I was able to then make the decision that I wanted to come back to BISM, where it all really started, where the road began for me, to help other people start their journey of independence and training and becoming confident. So BISM really has a huge place in my heart, and I'm super excited to be hosting this podcast. Join me and my esteemed guests and explore the possibilities beyond sight together. Today, we have a wonderful guest. They are currently serving as the Employments Program Coordinator for the National Federation of the Blind, and they also have over 10 years of experience working in the blindness community, including 9 years working here at BISM. We are so grateful for all of the work that this person has done for BISM and continues to do for the blindness community. We are so lucky to have her back here today for our first ever podcast episode. Please welcome Nikki Jackson.
Hello.
Nikki, it's good to talk to you again.
Awesome to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Yes. So, Nikki, I have tons of information on you.
Oh boy, wait, good information? Like, let's be specific.
all wonderful things, all wonderful things. But first, Nikki, please tell us about yourself. Tell us about who you are and your sort of life growing up.
So, about me. Currently, I work as the Employment Programs Coordinator for the National Federation of the Blind. I have been in this position for, I guess, about 8 months now, 9 months, which is wild to think about because it seems like I just started yesterday. But it's been really cool to be in this role. I have been able to do some really cool things, dive into some really cool projects, and that has been great. Just a bit of background about me. I, as you mentioned, have been in the blindness field for over a decade now. I have served in a variety of capacities, which I'm sure we will talk about in a few. My journey in this field has been one of a lot of learning, a lot of mistakes, a lot of successes. But all in all, it's been a wild ride. Growing up, I grew up just like everyone else. I've been blind my whole life. I'm from South Georgia. And so I grew up not really knowing a lot of blind people, not having really a blind community to reach out to for resources and information and things of that nature. But I had a very supportive family, a great friend network, a great education network. And so I believe people provided me opportunities to the best of their ability. And I was able to do things and find success to the best of my ability with the resources that I have. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So you said you grew up in South Georgia. You grew up in Albany, right?
Albany, Georgia.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. So tell me, what's great about Albany? What if I was going to visit? Like, what's there? What's up?
See, why we do that? Okay, so all right. Well, if many of you all don't know, which I feel like everyone knows this, but Albany is the birthplace of Ray Charles. And we actually have a park. It's called Turtle Grove Park, where there is a statue that has been dedicated to Ray Charles. And it's a statue of him playing the piano. And if you go out there during the daytime, they have music that is played from the statue to kind of memorialize Ray Charles playing the piano. It's really cool and it's a beautiful space. So that's actually one of my favorite places to visit when I go home is to go sit in Turtle Grove Park. You have the Flint River that runs kind of adjacent to the park, so you can sit by the water. It's just a really great place to find some like tranquility and peace and grounding, and I love it. So yeah, I don't know. That's one of my favorite places, and of course, my mama house.
Nothing beats your mom's house, I'm sure. But I definitely did not know about the Ray Charles monument, or even that he was born there. I feel like I'm gonna get, I guess, made fun of now by like all of our friends, but I definitely did not know that. So you said that you grew up mostly as everyone else does, but could you tell me a bit more about your eye condition and what that was like? Did you have to go through a lot of medical procedures, or did you have total blindness? Where did you fall along that spectrum?
Great question. So I actually was diagnosed at the age of 4 with an eye condition called retinitis pigmentosa. It is essentially the deterioration of my retinas. Apparently, I just learned there are 2,000 different versions of this eye condition. So apparently, like there are all these different genetic
Mm.
mutations that you can get testing for, and I guess they all appear or they all show up for each person very differently. It's interesting. I
Mhm.
just went to the eye doctor not too long ago, and he was going through the eye exam, and he's like, "Oh, you have the very basic RP gene, or I guess condition." I'm like, "Okay, so I'm basic now. That's fine." But so I grew up with RP, and it's been interesting with the version that I have. I have, or I have always had all central vision, but no peripheral. And the doctors always used to describe it as it's like looking through a straw. And I don't really think it's like looking through a straw. I would say it's like looking through a paper towel roll in a
Mm.
sense. So it's a bit wider. There's a bit more, I guess, a greater for me field of vision by describing it that way. But yeah, it's always been more like a paper towel roll. And so when I was younger, I considered myself to have somewhat a lot of usable vision. I could read print, I could move pretty, like I could navigate pretty successfully, pretty confidently without a cane. At least I thought I could anyway. The only issue that I noticed growing up was that I could not see at night. My particular condition causes night blindness. So at night, I could not see anything. I could only see if there were like street lights or headlights on cars, if a porch light was on, things of that nature, but anything else I could not see. And that has deteriorated as I've gotten older. And it's not anything super drastic, but it's these small changes that you notice over time. Like,
Mm.
oh, wait, I can't see that anymore. And I used to could read, that sign or whatever the case may be. So it's interesting how it's almost like you don't really notice it because your brain kind of fills in the gaps of what you're not seeing. But then one
Mhm.
day you're like, oh, I really can't see that anymore. It's
Mhm.
interesting to kind of experience that.
That it is really interesting, and I think that talking about blindness adds a spectrum is really important, because I know that there's a lot of people who don't understand that you can kind of fall along any rung of that spectrum, so to speak. You really, like you said, like your doctors described it to you as, oh, it's, looking through a straw, but for you it was completely a different sensation. And for me, growing up, to give a little touch on my blindness a little bit, like I was born with retinoblastoma, which is a cancer of the retina. And so I wasn't able to see out of my right eye because I had a tumor in it, and I was only able to see out of my left eye until I was about 12. And I thought like what I had was, pretty good. I thought I was rocking with the little bit of vision I had. And I was like, yeah, like I got this. And like, man, this vision stuff is, it's okay. Like, I don't, I was kind of like, I see the big deal of like losing it all, but I also was like, man, but it's also like not that great. Like, man, I don't know what it's all, why so many people would be scared. And then one day I was talking to someone who had total vision, and they like, I saw you down at the track. Now, mind you, the school I was at, the track and the place that I knew this person was at was probably like, I don't know, 2 football fields away. Like it was a pretty good distance. I was like, how could you see me? You didn't see me. You must have thought you saw me. And they're like, nah, I could see you because of the elevation, and I was able to look down upon you, but I can see at that distance. I was like, you must be an eagle. I've met an eagle in human form.
I feel the same way. I cannot conceptualize when people tell me they can see from very far distances because I've never been able to. So it's very hard for my mind to grasp that concept. Like, wait, you can see way down the street or way across the field. It's just interesting what the information that we process, I guess, like visually, and like when we're not able to process it, like imagining that other people can process more information than what you're processing yourself. I don't know. It's interesting. I will say too, because I know you asked, like, did I have any different medical procedures? None at all. I do consider myself pretty lucky to not have had to go through eye surgeries, because I know there are many people who have, and those aren't some of the easiest things to experience. So they pretty much said, you have RP, figure it out. So that was the gist of my experience with the medical facility and my eye condition.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I definitely understand the eye surgery. I gotta have like another funny story, because I was a fighter as a kid, so they had to do these procedures on me where they were like, okay, we need to look at your eye. Like normally you go to the eye doctor and they're like, yeah, we're gonna shine this light in your eye and you're gonna be a good noodle and you're gonna like just look into the light. But I was super resistant to that because hey, I don't know when in humanity we agreed to just look into the light, but I was not a fan of the idea. And so as a kid, of course, I would struggle to start moving around a lot. And so every year, probably from my like fourth birthday onward, I literally had to go in and be put under anesthesia so they could check on my eye to make sure everything was good. And that's like a very light sort of procedure to have to go through every year. But I know that there are people who definitely had to go through more. But I always think about it because it's like, man, I must have been a really aggressive little kid. Like, when has a doctor ever been like, let's put this guy under anesthesia, we can't control him?
I'm right there with you. I believe if I would have had to experience anything more in depth around my eyes, I would have been the same way, because I don't like the general eye exams. Even now that I'm older, I'm like, don't touch my eyes. And they're like, but no, like, hold, I have to almost like prepare. And then I have to like, it's so weird. I have to like, I got to count off before you touch. Like I have to prepare myself mentally, like, yes, because I can't take it. It is, my eyes are super sensitive. So I can relate to that, to those sentiments. Yeah.
Okay. So where do you go from Albany? Where does the journey take you from there?
I know, right? Because like Albany to Baltimore, wild. So again, like I mentioned, I have very little connection with the blind community living in Albany. And so I ended up going to college in Valdosta, which is smaller than Albany, Valdosta, Georgia. I went to Valdosta State University, and that's where I connected with like I'm not gonna say the first blind person, because that's not necessarily true, but like My roommate in college was blind and she was from Atlanta. And so this was someone who had been taught Braille as a kid. She could use access technology. She did not use a cane, but she had some blindness skills that I had not yet been introduced to. And so we lived together. We became really good friends, sisters, still to this day. And she was the one who kind of introduced me in the very beginning to some of these things. And I wasn't quite ready. Like I was like, okay, like that's cool, girl. Like you have fun with that because I'm not blind. Right. So it's like that whole
Mm.
denial thing.
Mhm.
But it ended up coming to a point where she ended up going back home. And I was about a semester shy of graduating. I actually was majoring in mass communications. I wanted to go into audio production.
Mm.
So I had done all this work and taken all these classes, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go through my last semester and graduation is on. I have no idea what I'm going to do, but fate saw something a bit different. And I remember going to study within that first week of classes, and I started to try to read my textbook, and all of the print was like running together. And I was like, oh, this isn't good. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe I'm just tired, or maybe I just need to rest, and took a nap and tried again, and no change. And I was like, okay, like this is when I really noticed like there has been a drastic change in my vision. I really don't know when it happened because I was just in classes in December and went home for winter break, came back in January, at the end of January, and
Mhm.
boom, everything changed. And so I ended up taking medical withdrawal from my classes, and I ended up going to Emory Eye Center, which is in Atlanta, with my mom. And the doctor pretty much said, well, this is a part of RP and there's really nothing we can do. However, there is a place here in Atlanta that you can go to get training, which at that time, well, I think it's still called the Center for the Visually Impaired, CVI. And this is a residential program. It's just like a day program where they offer blindness skills. And so I was like, okay. I had a friend at the time who I went to high school with. She was living in Atlanta. So I was like, okay, well, I'll see if I could stay with her and I could go to the center every day to take classes. And so I went back home and we were kind of throwing around ideas on how we could, get me to Atlanta to be able to take classes. And just so happened that my friend from college called me out of the blue because I hadn't talked to her in a while. And she said, hey, the Georgia Association of Blind Students, GABS, shout out to GABS, we're having our student seminar. And I thought this would be really cool for you to come to. And she didn't know I had withdrawn from school, by the way. She was, she was just calling me to check in and see if I wanted to attend. And I said, oh, okay, well, I don't have anything going on at the moment. I took medical leave from school because I lost a lot of vision. So why not? And so I asked my cousin to go with me because, again, I didn't have travel skills and I didn't know what a cane was. And so my cousin and I hopped on Greyhound and rode to Atlanta. And I always say that was the moment. Attending that seminar was the moment that really changed my life and just shifted the trajectory of my future. I got to meet some of, I think, the most amazing people at that seminar. And they really showed me, like, hey, girl, like, you're blind, but with skills, you can be living the life that you want. You can be going to classes and to school and doing all these other things, and blindness will not play a part in that. So I credit that seminar to me going to Louisiana Center a few months later after attending that seminar, me really becoming active in the National Federation of the Blind. And then eventually, I worked a few summer programs at different centers at LCB, at CCB, and eventually it led me to working a summer program here at BISM. And yeah, that's all she wrote. 2013, I was working here and then I just never went home afterwards. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. A countrywide tour starting in Georgia, going to Louisiana, to Colorado, then to the best city in the world, Baltimore. So let's backtrack a little bit, dig into a few things. So one of the things that you brought up was the Georgia Association of Blind Students.
Yes.
The Georgia Association of Blind Students is a division of the National Federation of the Blind of Georgia, which is, of course, an affiliate of the National Federation of the Blind, the largest organization of blind people in the country. And they, of course, then put the tools in your hand to be empowered and to pursue training at the Louisiana Center for the Blind, which is a training center. What did you learn at the Louisiana Center for the Blind?
What didn't I learn at the Louisiana Center for the Blind? I think that's the better question. But I mean, I learned, of course, all of the blindness skills, Braille, technology, cane travel, independent living, or home management, as they called it. Of course, there was wood shop to help build confidence. And, I learned all of these, what I would like to, I guess, call like hard and soft skills. But like, I think the most important thing that I learned was like the confidence to be able to navigate this world as my authentic self, right? And not be ashamed of my blindness. And also to know my blindness isn't a factor in the things that I want to do. So meaning like, yes, blindness can, we have to be honest about like blindness can impact some of the things that we do due to accessibility, right? But blindness should never impact me wanting to try something because the fear of me not being able to do it because I'm blind, right? Like it just being a characteristic that is like the piece of the tapestry that completes Nikki. So I think that's the most important lesson that I learned at the center. And then I also learned like how important community is, whether it be the community I cultivated with the instructors, the community I cultivated with my fellow classmates, the students who were attending at the same time. It was truly an experience where I had an opportunity to really, really just come into my own. And I think for so much of my life, I was trying to navigate the world as someone who didn't know where she fit in. And LCB helped me realize like, you fit in wherever you choose to. You just need to show up as you.
Facts for sure. Facts for sure. And as a fellow LCBA graduate, I understand that. But also, I have to love what you said about community, because I think that LCB really helped me find that community as well. And I think that community is really important because based on your actions that we're going to get into and based on the actions that I am starting to take on each day here at BISM, we are using that fulfillment from our community to give back to our community, which leads me to bringing it full circle. You came into the BISM community via one of our summer programs, and you were a staffer for that summer program, right?
Absolutely.
So, a summer program full of teenagers, what was that experience like?
Ooh, well, okay. So let me preface by saying I had worked 3 summer programs prior to working at BISM. Like I mentioned, I worked 2 years at LCB. I worked their STEP program and I worked the buddy program. And then the next year, I actually was an intern at the Colorado Center. But due to some kind of last minute changes, I ended up helping out with the summer program there as well. So by the time I got to BISM, I had just graduated college that previous fall. And I was looking for work and I had a job lined up, but due to funding, it fell through. So I said, I'm going to work one more program. This will be the last summer program that I work. I enjoy it. It's so much fun. It's so rewarding, but it is also, it can be a lot. It's very tiring. And I was like, I want to enjoy my summers after this. I want to explore. I want to travel. I want to do some things. So I told myself this will be the last summer that I worked. And so when I got hired to work at BISM, it was exciting because I'd never heard of BISM. I actually learned about BISM through a friend who had applied to BISM as well. So she said, hey, they're still looking for staffers, for counselors. Like, do you want to apply? I said, sure. So she sent me the information and I applied. And it's so funny. There was the youth director, and then there was the person who worked under the youth director for that summer, who was the coordinator. And it's so funny, the coordinator ended up being someone I went to training with, and someone who I actually work alongside now, which is Karen Anderson. So she was the coordinator. And when she saw that I had applied, she was like, oh my gosh, like, yes. And so when I interviewed with her and Dan, they were great. And at the time, the youth director was Dan Wenzel, or youth manager, and they were great. And they were like, yeah, we want you on board to come and work with our high school students. And that was an amazing experience. I worked alongside a really great staff. Two of them I am friends with to this day, along with Karen. And we had an amazing summer traveling to New York with our students. We went to DC. Of course, we went to the National Federation of the Blind National Convention. So we did a lot of traveling. There were a lot of great moments, crazy moments living on the UMBC campus and having the classes there. And the most rewarding thing was watching the students' growth that summer, many of them coming in and being very sheltered and not really being confident in their blindness and really not knowing what blindness skills were, or being very against blindness skills, right? Because at that age, you're very rebellious, right? Like, you're just like, I want to do what I want to do. And then watching them grow, and then at the end, really seeing who they have become. It was quite a wild ride, but it's really cool now, 10 years, 11 years later, to see where each of those students have ended up. And of course, it's not like, yeah, I'm not the sole reason the person is where they are, but it's kind of cool to know, like, you did play some part in helping them find their way. It's really cool. So yeah, my experience working the summer program was definitely a wild ride, definitely a summer full of eating Hot Pockets and ramen noodles, which I cannot eat a Hot Pocket to this day. If you offer me one, I will throw it back at you. But it was truly a rewarding experience.
Well, I definitely did not know about your now love-hate relationship with Hot Pockets. No, none of them? Not a single flavor.
We ate so many. I just can't. I'm traumatized.
I can't. That's awesome. I think that describe you, though, like working with teenagers and sort of giving them the confidence and connecting with them, but someone who definitely got to learn from you and get to know you, and getting that sense of empowerment, but also the sense of community and connection with you was super important to my growth and my development. So I know that I've talked to tons of different youth who also feel that way, and other people that are around my age that you've impacted that also feel that way. So it's definitely appreciated what you did during that summer program, but also what you continue to do in your work in BISM. And so I think that's a perfect setup to tell us, what did you get into next? Like, what was your next thing?
Oh, wow. How are you just gonna hit me with that and then just want to transition? I have to process that for a minute. No, but first of all, I'm thank you for sharing that. That is truly humbling, right? Because this work, we don't do it for the money, that's for sure. We do it because we want to give the gift of independence, which was given to us. And so I don't take that lightly. That's something that's I hold very dear. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I truly am humbled to know, like, folks see the work that you do and they're impacted. And I just hope that I continue to give back in the ways that people continue to pour into me. And so even speaking about that, my time at BISM, again, a wild ride once I was hired on. So, and it's been a constant, in my opinion. It's been a reciprocal relationship in the ways that what I was able to give to the organization, there were folks there who continuously poured back into me in ways in which I was able to really be successful there and establish a very meaningful career. So when I first was hired at BISM in the fall of 2013, I came on as a contract worker to build the college prep program. Had no idea how to build a program, just out of college, like a year shy of college, like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. And I had the opportunity to work with someone who was really great, Sarah Babler, one of my colleagues from that summer. Her and I were both hired to run the program. And so we had a really great time and we worked with some amazing students. And so during that time of working college prep, I also got pulled in to teach technology at the time because the technology instructor had just transitioned to move on to some other things. And so I had never taught technology. Again, like I just started using Access Tech when I went to Louisiana, which was 3 years prior. So I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so it was a lot of learning, a lot of missteps, but BISM took a chance and said, we see something in you and we want to help to cultivate that. And so that was probably one of the, I'm not going to say the stressful, but it was one of those positions where I really had to challenge. It was challenging in the ways that a lot of times I didn't know what I was doing, but it caused me to step up and really research and reach out to my community, who there were a lot of techie people. I keep techie people in my community because I am not the most tech savvy. So having those resources to pull from is super important in those relationships. But I was able to really connect with my students also in a way where I was very transparent and honest. I would say like, hey, I'm not sure how to do that, but we will work together to figure this out. And I think my students really appreciated the honesty, and in their learning, I was able to learn. And so it made the learning super organic in a way that didn't show like one person has all the knowledge and the other doesn't. And so there's almost this weird power dynamic. It was, we're both able to learn and both able to bring offerings to the table so that it's kind of this mutual experience of like gaining information and growing. And that's what I really appreciated about that experience. And I think that really created the framework for how I would teach moving forward. Right. Because then I moved on to working to earn my NOMC, which is my National Orientation and Mobility Certification. So I could teach cane travel. And at the time, I was already kind of being asked to go out on home visits and to shadow some of the folks. Like, I feel like I'm dropping so many names in this podcast, but we're all connected. So like Maurice Perret and Desmond Jackson they were my colleagues, and they were going out into the community and working with people. And so because I only taught in the mornings, I was being asked to go out in the afternoons and help teach. And so I said, well, I'm already helping out, I might as well go ahead and try to get my certification. It just makes sense. And so Desmond led my apprenticeship and Maurice supervised. And so I was able to complete my apprenticeship right at BISM and earn my certification in 2015. And so from there, I became the lead travel instructor, and I went from technology to teaching travel full time. And then that eventually rolled over to me becoming the program manager. And so I was teaching travel and managing kind of the everyday operations of the program. And that was a very different experience, because it's not only, I have to worry about teaching my students and writing reports and kind of doing some curriculum planning, but now it's, I have to deal with conflict management, or I have to work with students when issues arise, or I have to be there for tours when people want to come in and learn about the program. So it was a whole different set of responsibilities, but I welcomed it with excitement because it was a way for me to continue to develop myself professionally. And so eventually, the last role that I held in ITR for the core program was as the job readiness instructor. And so that was very different as well, because now I am no longer in the field where it's like you're teaching and you're seeing direct results of people's growth. Job readiness was very different in the ways that I would have a student and work with a student over the course of their training, but they might not get a job until a year or so after. And so like that was very different, because we sometimes as instructors like to see that immediate, I'm not going to say immediate, but we like to we get that gratification from seeing the small growth in our students, where job readiness was very different. I saw it in other ways through students' other classes, but like job readiness wasn't the same in that way. It was very subtle. And so I had to really look for creative ways to stay like motivated, but then also come up with creative ways for students to really take what they have been learning in their other classes and really like be able to use those skills in job readiness in ways that were meaningful and tangible, because it wasn't just enough to come and say, okay, let's put a resume together. That's great. But if you aren't pulling in from the other skills that you're learning from your other classes, having that great looking resume doesn't even matter. So I would always say to people working in career readiness or job readiness was all the other classes, that's the foundation of the cake. You got your cane travel and your independent living, your braille, your wood shop, your access tech. That's the foundation of the cake. But baby, job readiness is the icing. That's the best part, because you get to bring all of the skills together to really like find the end result, the completion. And so my time in ITR was really great.
When it comes to, ITR, you kind of broke it down, but I just want to give it a broader overview. So ITR is our independence training and rehabilitation program. It is consisting of multiple different programs that all target different sections of our community. So we have our youth programs with Nikki. You touched on that was your first rodeo with us, working with our youth, but mainly teenagers, but also with children, planting the seeds for their growth, helping them find themselves, discover themselves, and teaching them new techniques and helping them grow in areas such as confidence and those core skills, which are braille, technology, independent living, and traveling, as well as sort of giving them some growth in, as you said, the icing on the cake, which is that job readiness or that college preparation, depending on which way they want to go. That similar concept goes up to our adult program, our core program, which is for our students who are now adults. They're looking for a little bit more intensive trainings, fully residential. And so you were working with those students and the technology and traveling and job readiness and college prep, and really giving those students different areas to further grow on, but in a more intense manner. They're coming in and they're fully devoted to learning those skills. And I think that's really important because it really allows them to dig deep. It's more than just a summer. It's a lot of time devoted to learning about themselves and growing. And then we have our SAIL program, which is for seniors, which again helps them by empowering them and giving them the tools they need to be successful, teaching them a lot of the same things. And then you also said something that I really personally love that we do, which is our home visits, going out into the community to people who may not be able to get to us, to give them those skills, to give them that empowerment, to get them that access to growth. And so you really got to see all phases of ITR during your time, which is really awesome. And you got to participate in and to give back to the community in that way. And then you also got to hold on to a management position, which is something that I think you expressed that you really didn't have a lot of experience with before going into it. You had encountered a lot at first. BISM really seemed like it gave you the opportunity to grow and to develop your skill sets in so many different ways, really turning you into like a multi-tool of sorts. Is that right?
Absolutely. I never would have considered myself to be in a position of management, but I said, like with everything that had been presented to me, I'm just going to try it out and see what happens. And I really found success. And it doesn't mean there weren't challenges along the way. There were, absolutely, but I gained so much from those experiences. And truly, that was because of the supports from the associates at BISM who were there to back me up and to brainstorm with me when I was unsure, and to come up with ideas, and to be honest with me when maybe things weren't going in the way they needed to go, or or just being in my corner and rooting for me. That made the hard days easy because I felt like I had a support system, not only from my colleagues, though, but also from the students. Building those relationships with students. They are your students, you are the instructor, but you do develop a relationship and they root for your success just as much as you root for theirs. So I really, truly had a support system at BISM.
Yeah. So on that note, who was your biggest mentor? Who was that person? Spill the tea, Nikki. Who is it? Tell
Spill the
me. I must
tea.
then go and tell them that they are the person.
See, I feel like this is the question that will get me in trouble. Okay. And I say that because there were so many people. If I were to start naming names and then
Mm,
leave people out, I would feel terrible
mm,
because there were so many people. And there were people across departments, not just people in leadership and management, but also people who worked shoulder to shoulder with me in ITR, people who
mhm.
worked in production, people who worked at other facilities. It's just really hard for me to say like this person, this, there was just so, I had supports from all corners. So it's just, if I name everyone, I don't want to name people because I don't want to leave anyone out. I truly don't. I really don't. But there's so many people there who have been so kind and gracious and have poured into me. And I can't name specific names because I just feel like I would, yeah, I can't do it.
What you're
You
telling
people know
me,
who they are. You all know who you are.
what you're telling me is that I should go around and tell everyone that you said that you did it by yourself and you need no
Oh,
help.
and I say you really trying to start some drama. You can tell them what you want, but the recording doesn't lie.
I mean,
Uh-huh. And our
in
editor,
the
I'm
world of
sure, will.
AI, though we do have a wonderful editor, and they will definitely get all of
They will make
your
sure
beautiful words down.
the
So,
truth is told.
yeah,
But I truly did have a strong
sadly,
support
sadly.
system. I will say this. So when I was transitioning from ITR into communications, which was really
Mm,
scary because I had worked in ITR for so many years. I remember at the time the director of ITR was Annie MacGyver, and
mm.
he mentioned, "Hey, communication position just was sent out. You want to look at it?" And I'm like thinking, not really. Like I'm good. I'm okay. And so I was like, I'll look at it, right? And knowing in the back of my mind, like not really. Like I really have no intention, but maybe I'll look at it. So I opened the email because I did see when the email was sent out, and I looked and I said, oh my gosh, like no. This is wild. Like one person does all this work. I will not. I have enough on my plate, even though like this will be a new job, I wouldn't take all responsibilities to the new position, but I'm like, I am good where I am. And so I had decided in my mind I wasn't going to do it. And I hadn't told anyone. I just said, I'm whatever, I'm not going to pursue it. And so I remember at the time, and I'm not sure if this person is still there, because there were people working at BISM, they have
Mhm.
now retired, who also were very supportive. But at the time, a fellow Georgian, um, Michael Garnso, had come to my office and he was a part of leadership. And he said, hey, there was a position sent out. Did you see it? I was like, yeah, like I saw it. He's like, well, what do you think about it? I said, not for me. And he's like, well, why not? He came and sat in my office and I told him all the reasons why, I felt like I did not want to pursue
Mm.
this new endeavor. And I just remember one thing. He said many things, but there was one thing that he said. He said, if you pursue this position and you get it, you will be supported.
Mm.
And that really stuck with me. And I don't know why I had any doubt because I had been truly supported throughout my tenure at BISM thus far. So knowing that I would have those supports there really made me go ahead and take that leap of faith. And I'm glad I did. There was someone else, Jaya Fortune, who's the director at HR, and this transition didn't happen while she was there. She came much later. But when I think back to that moment, I remember her saying something along the lines of do the things that scare you. And this position, communications manager, scared the heck out of me. And that's why I didn't want to move forward. But it was knowing that I had the supports to help me be successful that really helped me to get over that fear. And when you do the things that scare you, you really do find great success. And so I did that, and I got the job in communications, and it was definitely a great experience because I had worked so long as an instructor. I had experience in admin, but I believe it really helped me to develop those administrative skills in a way that really helped me to grow as a professional overall. And then also to the ability to meet other associates across the organization who weren't in ITR,
Mm.
associates from manufacturing, associates at our or had our oh, I've been there so long. I always say our associates at the base supply centers, associates across just all departments, all facilities. That was such a great experience, and really cultivating the relationships with those associates, and then being able to tell their stories through some of the projects that I worked on in communications was really cool, because those were stories that deserved to be told. And just as I was supported, those are associates who deserve to be supported too. And so I tried to take the supports of others that were presented to me and provide those same supports for the folks that I got a chance to work with while in that position in communications.
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to latch on to that you said was that you said hour. And I think one of the things is that no matter if you're working here actively or if you're just stopping by the building, you're always a part of our family. BISM is one BISM, and that, stays with you forever. And I think that that's something that I learned really early on in my time as a student, but also when I started working here too, was that our and we and that unity as a company is really important. And at first, sometimes you're like, it's just words. Like at first you're just it's for me, like this is my first real job. I was like, well, I'm sure everybody says that, all the organizations. I'm sure they say that at Google. It is really true here though. I really do feel that presence of unity and support that you talked about, because I think everyone is here and everyone knows the mission and everyone also has compassion for each other, has that want and need to support each other, and it shows every day. If I miss a day of work, like, people call me, people text me, people reach out to me to make sure I'm okay. It's not, why aren't you here? It's, are you okay? And I think that's a really important thing. And so always remember that you're a part of our family and that you're a part of one BISM. But also, too, I think that you addressing that next challenge is really important, because we as blind people sort of get told a lot that we can't overcome the challenges that are in front of us. We can't overcome those obstacles. And to have people here at BISM sort of encourage you to take on those challenges is, one, what we do with our students every day. It's what we do with all of our employees. But two, it is to show that you can go higher and higher. Our president is blind, right? And
Mhm.
there's not a lot of organizations that can say they have a blind president. And those that can are infinitely powerful because they are empowering everyone to reach their full potential. And I think there should be more organizations that fall in that direction of not being so stagnated on the viewpoint that you have to be a certain type of person to make a change and to be the best thing in that position. And so I think BISM is an example of what it really means to be inclusive.
Mhm.
And I really do love that about our company. So next thing. This is completely a left field questions. Are you ready, Nikki?
Oh boy.
Are you ready?
I'm nervous,
Are
but
you sure?
I'm ready. Let's
Are you
go.
sure? All right, let's do this. Okay. What is the funniest moment you've had in the community of BISM?
Oh my gosh. Oh
uh,
gosh, funniest moment. That is because there's so many. Like I
Pick
stayed
one.
laughing back there. And I feel like that's what people knew me by was my loud, obnoxious laugh. So, okay, funniest moment. Oh my gosh. Gosh, there's so many. Now I'm like drawing a blank.
Well, while you think of one, I will
Okay,
give you one of my favorite ones. This is
okay.
I just started working at BISM in our ITR department. I'm traveling home with our students, and then I hear a war cry, and it goes something like "Woo!" And I'm like, "What's going on? Is this a new alarm system they built in?" And then I hear the response, "Woo!" And they're like, and lo and behold, it's Nikki Jackson, and she's got all of my students going, "Woo!" over and over, and we're standing at the bus stop, just all going, "Woo! Woo! Woo!" Until the bus comes. And even when the bus driver pulls up, we're all still going, "Woo!" So then the bus driver goes, "Woo!" And we're it's just it's just a delightful experience. I think a form
I,
of levity that I loved.
I am weak right now. That is great. I listen. If anyone knows me, when I would leave out, and it was like, as soon as the sun hits my face and it's the end of the day, right? Not that I'm not happy to be doing the work, right, for the organization, but it was like, yes, it is time to go out and get some sunshine. And I would just have to do the just like yes, the end of the day. And I don't even I think I just started encouraging others to do it because it's the end of the day and we should celebrate. Why not? We're happy. Like we had a great day. So it's so funny you brought that up. Oh my gosh. You know what? We'll just have to go with that right now. I'm going to I'm it's a cop out. I'm choosing that as for now my funniest moment because I cannot just think of one particular moment. There were so many. I will tell you a great moment. I wouldn't say it's the funniest, but it was one of the cool things that we got to do. So this was right before the pandemic. We had a chili cook-off. And yeah, so we used to do really fun things like that. Just something out of the norm to kind of get out of the everyday routine of classes and get the students to showing them like, hey, your skills can be used for all types of things. Like these are transferable skills. So we were divided up into 3 teams, a mix of students and instructors, and everyone had to come up with a chili recipe. And we made chili, and we had to like, I believe we had to use like certain things in our recipe, and we had to like stay under budget for our shopping list. So it was like this whole thing that went to it. So we had very specific guidelines that we had to follow for the cook-off. And so one of the most, I would say, like memorable moments was when my team, which I'm not a cook, y'all. I don't Okay, I do not, that is not my strong suit. I can cook, but I don't like to cook. But my team, we won. And just to kind of see like the smiles on the students' faces and how proud of the chili they made, how proud of their accomplishment they were. And we had the best name. So the name of our team was Jalapeno Face, which is supposed to be all up in your face, Rotel That supposed to be it is supposed to mean run until that, but it was rotel that, and that was our team name. And we got the chili peppers that apparently are still floating around BISM to this day. We got to take a picture with those and be dubbed like the chili cook-off winners of 2019. So I don't know, that's a pretty memorable moment. It was really cool.
I love that. Yeah, the chili peppers that are floating around is in an Easter egg for a future podcast. So definitely got to now listen to all the podcasts to see
Yes,
where it'll come up again. But I
yes.
promise it will come up again. And so as we wind down to our final question, I first want to say thank you so much for coming and sort of sharing your experiences with BISM and and just your overall life story. It's definitely been a journey, and it's been epic hearing about your experiences. But now it is time for the icing on top, the last question. Are you ready?
It's so dramatic.
I
You are so
am. I
dramatic. I love
am.
it. I love the drama. I love the drama. But yes, I'm ready.
All right. Here is your final project, Nikki Jackson. Define to us what independence means to you as a blind woman.
I believe independence is it's the ability to live life on your own terms.
Mm.
It is having choices and being able to make informed choices about your life and the things that you want to do. Independence reflects a life of being able to exercise autonomy around your decisions. Independence is being able to go for the goals and the things in your life that truly feed you. Yeah, I think ultimately independence looks different for everyone. My independence is going to look very different from your independence. Your independence will look different from someone else's. And I think it's being able to recognize that and honor that in each other.
Mm.
And I think that's something we should always keep at the forefront of our work in this field when we engage with our members, our students, consumers, whomever, right? Like it looks different. And we need to just be able to make sure that they have adequate choices so
Mm.
that way they can choose to live the life that they truly want. It should not be dictated by the fact that they're blind, and they should not be held back because of blindness. So yeah, that's what independence truly means to me.
That was a wonderful conversation with Nikki. I am super appreciative of her coming and speaking with me. It was wonderful to hear her perspective on what it is to be independent as a blind person. Now we have a quick plug from Nikki about some of the wonderful work that she's doing.
So I wanted to take a moment to highlight some of the employment programs that we have going on or that we're offering at the National Federation of the Blind. So first and foremost is our We're the Blind webinar, which is a quarterly webinar that highlights blind professionals working in a variety of fields. Our next Where the Blind Work webinar will be held on July 18th from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern via Zoom. And this particular webinar will be focused on the field of STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And so we have 3 fabulous panelists who will be presenting to our participants and talking about the type of work that they do in the field and how they do their work as a blind person. So it's going to be super informative and a great opportunity for folks to really learn about STEM and how blind people are blazing the trail in that employment sphere. Our next webinar, which is not necessarily following the quarter schedule, but it was designed to be the precursor for another event, which I'll talk about in a moment. But our August Where the Blind Work webinar will be held on August 22nd from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern via Zoom. And this particular webinar will focus on blind professionals who work remote jobs. The employment landscape is shifting. It has been shifting for the last several years, and a lot of employers are moving more towards remote work. So this is going to show us how blind people are engaging in that change in the employment landscape and how we're able to be successful. So that should be a very informative webinar as well. We also have 3 amazing panelists who will talk about the different jobs that they do as blind people and how they're successful. And so I mentioned that August webinar is the precursor to an event, which is our virtual career fair, which will be held on October 22nd. Time will be determined soon. This particular event is for employers and job seekers to connect virtually via Zoom, and we create as we like to call a Zoom mall of employers where job seekers can move and navigate in and out of rooms and meet with employers virtually. And so it's an opportunity for folks who may not be able to travel to our national convention and our Washington seminar and participate in these in-person career fairs. They now have an opportunity to participate virtually. And I love the way that we're fostering inclusion in that way to make sure that all of our members or people who are non-members have the opportunity to engage in some of our programming. And so those are some of the 3 upcoming things that we have coming soon this year. Registration for these events will be open very soon, so please be on the lookout. And depending on when you're listening to this, we are either getting really close to having our National Career Fair, or we have already had it. So super excited about that. That's going to be on July 3rd at our national convention from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Rosen Center Hotel in sunny Orlando, Florida. And so far we have about 21 employers. We have almost 200 job seekers. So it's going to be a great opportunity for job seekers and employers to connect and hopefully change some lives and launch some careers. So, and I believe BISM that you all are participating in our career fair. So looking forward to this event and to having you all be a participant in our fair. So I think that's all of the things that we have going on. I mean, there's a lot going on, but those are the things that I think are, I don't want to say the most important, but I think those are the things that are most relevant to our conversation that we've had today. But I thank you for letting me share this information with listeners, and I hope to see you all at some of our upcoming events.
That was the first episode of the Beyond Sight BISM podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to learn more about what BISM is doing, you can go to bism.org. Make sure to add us to your podcast feeds because we will be having more episodes coming up soon. See you next time.